Good afternoon, producer Susan. How's your week been going?
I'm doing great, Jerzee Joe. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Have you had your dog swimming recently?
He was on Saturday, but then had too much excitement and got sick on Sunday, so we had to take the day off.
Sorry to hear that. Hopefully he's doing better now, huh? Is he doing better? All recovered?
Yep.
All right, that's good. All right. Let's get started unless you got something you want to throw onto the agenda.
No, it's a beautiful day. I'm gonna go mow the lawn after this.
All right. All right. Well, today's August 21st. Um, the focus of the show is news and perspective. You all
Actually,
hear
it's the 22nd.
Oh, 22nd. Very good. Thank you for catching that. Today's the 22nd. It's news and perspective you won't hear on TV. And in fact, we do have a story, a very major story that I know you didn't hear about. So we'll talk about that. Our quote of the week is from the entrepreneur name of Paul Graham, who gives some advice on how to choose a profession that will almost guarantee that you will do great work and enjoy your job. And the stupidest thing I've heard all week will tell you why you can't become a foster parent in Massachusetts if you're Catholic. We'll tell you how tall a stack of $100 bills would be if you wanted to stack them up to equal our current national debt of 32 trillion. The answer might stun you. So I'm going to ask you for your guess on how tall of a stack of $100 bills you need to equal our national debt of 32 trillion when we get there. So think about that. In our science segment, we have some pretty stunning statistics. We'll tell you how climate change has impacted the annual death rate from climate-related weather events over the past century and how that death rate has changed. In a related story, we'll tell you what other types of regular occurring weather events causes the most damage when measured in terms of dollars. In our stories you won't hear on TV segment, we'll tell you about Vice President Joe Biden sending out emails under fake names while he was vice president and asked the question, why would somebody do that? You're the vice president of the United States sitting in your office and you're sending out emails under a fake name. If you're a Republican, I'll tell you why I don't think you should vote for Trump in the primary elections if you want the next president of the United States to be Republican and the next two justices to the Supreme Court to be conservatives. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-Trump, but I'm just saying if you want a Republican in the White House in 2024, you should vote for somebody besides Trump. In our taxpayer relief shot segment, we're going to first, instead of just one story, we're going to bring you two stories of two different women using guns to protect the lives of other family members. So what do you think about that agenda for today?
That sounds pretty full.
All right. All right. Our quote of the week is from entrepreneur Paul Graham on how to choose a profession that will guarantee that you will do great work and enjoy it. And here's his quote. And I'm going to relate this to a personal story. And here's his quote. It's essential to work on something you're deeply interested in. Interest will drive you to work harder than mere diligence ever could. The three most powerful motives are curiosity, delight, and the desire to do something impressive. Sometimes they converge, and that combination is the most powerful of all. Any thoughts on on his advice?
Yeah.
All right. Let me tell you how that relates to me. I love solving problems. My first job out of college, of course, I was trained as a mechanic. I went to work for Carrier in their industrial equipment division, and I was in their field service group. And every day the phone would ring several times, and it'd be a customer, hospital, office building, university with our air conditioning machine isn't working. It's getting hot in here. We need somebody to fix it. Well, the first step in fixing it is figuring out what's wrong with it. So every one of these phone calls to me was a puzzle. And many times I would jump in my car and I'd go out there. And the first step in figuring out what's wrong is to figure out what is the best way to go about diagnosing this problem. If you're a doctor, depending on what the patient's complaints are, you might use one diagnostic method for one patient and a totally different diagnostic method for a different patient. So the first step was what is the right diagnostic approach I should take? And then after I do the diagnostic approach, I would then look at all the data to try and solve the puzzle. Why isn't this machine working the way it's supposed to work? And then after you figure out why it isn't working the way it's supposed to work, the next step is, what's the best way to fix it? You may know how to fix it or what to fix, but how do you do it? How do you stage it? What equipment and tools am I going to need? How many guys is it going to take? How long is it going to take? What parts and special tools? And to me, each one of these things was a puzzle, and I love solving puzzles. So I love that job because every day it was solving multiple puzzles, and I took great satisfaction. I tell story to this day. I'll tell people stories about really tough problems that I solved and really elegant solutions to how I solved some of these problems that restored cooling to a building that normally would have taken somebody 3 days, and I got their cooling back on in 3 hours. Do you have any experiences like that you want to share? Or
Yeah, I mean, but one of my when dealing with some of my customers is asking why. Maybe that's more on the upfront end of why do you want to do this, or why do you want to accomplish this? I like to explore the why.
But do you get satisfaction from poking and prodding and finding out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So again, I'm going to repeat that. The three most powerful motives are curiosity, delight, and the desire to do something impressive. So if you have a job that that engages you, your curiosity, gives you delight when you succeed, and gives you the chance to do something impressive, how can you not? How can you not succeed in a job like that? Because you're going to have the drive, you're going to study, you're going to do stuff you're going to read up on weekends. So, you'll succeed at jobs like that versus, oh, it's Monday, I got to go to work. Oh, damn, I wish I was doing something else. If you've got a job where you're saying, damn, it's Monday, I got to go back to work, you're in the wrong job. If you can find a job like, I can't wait till Monday morning to get back because I love what I'm doing, that's a job you're going to be extremely successful at. So before any editorial comment before I move on?
Yeah, I mean, they always say if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. So
never work a day in your life. And that's kind of a variation of, and I can really, and by the way, when I moved on and became a partner in a venture capital firm, it was the same thing. You've seen the show Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares.
Yep.
We would go look at businesses, and when I would look at these businesses, my first challenge would be, what is this business doing right, and what is this business doing wrong? And then once you figure out what it's doing wrong, then the second challenge is, all right, what's the best way to fix it? What's the best way to move them from what they are doing to what they should be doing? And then the third step is change management, which is another, because getting people to let go of what they have been doing and embrace something they should be doing is usually the toughest part. That was the same thing with Gordon Ramsay. He would go into a restaurant and very quickly he could figure out this is what they're doing wrong. The toughest part of what he had to do was convincing the owners to do it his way and not their way. That was always the toughest part of the show. It was managing the change process. So anyway, it's been with me all my life, and I've loved every job I've ever had. Anyway, moving on. Stupidest thing I've heard all week. Now, the state of Massachusetts has 17,000 kids under state care. They have them in state facilities. They have them in juvenile. They have them in hospitals. And they're looking for foster parents. 17,000 kids with no parents because their parents are in jail. Their parents are drug addicts. Their parents are unfit. So this Catholic couple applied to be foster parents. And they got a letter back. And I'll read you from the story. They got a letter back from the state of Massachusetts denying their application. And here's what the story said. Mike and Kitty Burke filed suit on August 8th against state officials who rejected their application to be foster parents. In an exhaustive screening process, state agents gave the Burkes high marks and glowing comments, but the state turned them down because their Catholic faith was, quote, not supportive of the state's promotion of transgender medical procedures. The Burkes' beliefs on sexuality were the sole reason for the denial. Now, note that at no time did the couple state nor imply that they wouldn't respect the gender preference wishes of any child placed in their care. The state of Massachusetts just assumed that they wouldn't, and that was the basis for the denial. Now, it's one thing if the state had a questionnaire and said, if the child under your care expressed a desire to change their gender, would you be supportive? It'd be one thing if they had asked the question and this couple had said, no, we wouldn't. But that question was never asked. The state just assumed that this couple wouldn't be supportive. Now, my question is, are they also going to deny Jewish couples, Muslim couples, Hindu couples? On what? I mean, it just boggles my mind that the state that has 17,000 kids with no home is denying this couple because they assume this couple wouldn't be supportive.
Yeah.
What's your thought and reaction?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And just because it's not an all or nothing. And this goes to religion or politics or whatever, just because you associate with this particular group of people does not mean you believe everything of that particular group of people.
Yeah, and again, and I don't think the Catholic Church, I'm not sure that the Catholic Church has come out pro or con in terms of, gender switching. I'm not aware that they have. But the point is, but at no time did the couple state or employer they wouldn't be respectful of the gender preference of any child placed in their care. So I think the state of Massachusetts is going to lose this case big time. At least I hope they do, because they would have no basis for denying just this one couple and then not denying Jewish couples, Muslim couples, and Hindu couples. If they want to make this a criteria, then they need to have a questionnaire. So that's the stupidest thing I've heard all week. Do you think it qualifies for the stupidest?
Yeah, absolutely. That is ridiculous that you would deny a child who needs love from a couple willing to provide that love.
Right. And by the way, that would also and of course, foster care typically leads to adoption. So it's also would apply to their request to adopt any of these children. So if you're a foster child, or if you're a child in the care of the state of Massachusetts, at the moment, no Catholic couple can become your foster parents or even apply to adopt you, because the state won't permit it. All right. Somebody I know on the radio the other day asked the question, our current national debt is $32 trillion. And he was wondering, if we took a stack of $100 bills, how high would a stack of $100 bills have to be to equal our national debt of $32 trillion? And you want to guess whether it be 500 feet, 1,000 feet, a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles?
I'm gonna say, let's see, a stack of $100 bills is about a half an inch. I'm gonna say it's probably going to be like in the 16 million mile range.
Well, not quite. Here's the math. Now, if we were talking dollar bills, you'd be absolutely correct.
Okay, that's what I was saying. I was thinking dollar bills.
Okay, but I'm talking $100 bills.
So 100. So let me move my decimal point. That would be what?
2 places.
Yeah. So what? 160,000 miles.
No, here's the math.
Am I moving my decimal the wrong way?
Yeah, you moved it the wrong way. Here you go. All right.
But I'm not wrong that it's miles and miles and miles.
Right. So here's the math. There's 250 freshly minted and unwrinkled $100 bills to the inch, which is 25,000 to the inch, which is 300,000 per foot, or 1.5 billion per mile. That means that just 1 trillion in $100 bills would be a stack 631 miles high, which is twice the distance from the Earth to the space station. Therefore, 32 trillion would be a stack of $100 bills 20,200 miles high. If you laid that stack on its side, it would almost, the circumference of the Earth at the equator is almost 25,000 miles. So if you were to stack $100 bills tightly packed around the equator of the Earth, not end to end, this is stacked, you would go 80% around the circumference of the Earth. Now, if you made a small mountain out of those bills, and let's say you made a mountain that was 100 feet by 100 feet at the base, which is 10,000 square feet, that mountain would be 2 miles high. So that's how, so if you want to try to get your mind around what 32 trillion in national debt looks like, it's a stack of $100 bills, 20,200 miles high.
And to put in perspective, many of the Rocky Mountains are about 2.5 miles tall.
14,000 feet, correct.
Yeah.
So, so even if if you made a mountain 100 foot by 100 foot high mountain, it would be just a little over 2 miles high, a little over 10,000, 11,000 feet.
So the height of the Rocky Mountains.
Height of the Rocky Mountains. All right. Now let's talk about climate with, if in fact we're having more frequent and more violent climate events, you would think that the annual deaths from climate related events would increase, right?
Yes.
Now, since the population of the Earth has really changed over the last 100 years, the best way to look at this is climate deaths per million. Well, here's something very stunning. And this is a quote from the Link story. The data shows that climate-related events, which include floods, droughts, storms, wildfires, and temperature extremes, are not actually killing more people. Deaths have dropped by a huge amount. In the 1920s, which was 100 years ago, almost 500,000 people were killed by climate-related disasters worldwide. 500,000 people. In 2021, less than 7,000 people died in climate-related events, which means that climate-related disasters now kill 99% fewer people than they did 100 years ago. How's that for a statistic?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 years ago, the global death rate from climate-related events was 298 per million. Today, that figure is 0.8 deaths per million people. So again, it's declined by 99%. So it's just a dramatic. So you hear all this doom and gloom, and we're all going to die. No, again, the people dying from climate events are 99% fewer than they were a century ago. So on a related event, when we look at hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, and thunderstorms annually, which one of those events, hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, and thunderstorms, which one of those events each year do you think causes the most financial loss, is the costliest?
Probably flooding.
Well, again, flooding from hurricanes, flooding from thunderstorms. I didn't say flooding. I said hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, or thunderstorms.
Probably tornadoes.
You would be wrong.
Oh.
The winner by a huge amount is thunderstorms. And the first half of 2023 was pretty typical when it came to non-thunderstorm catastrophes, with about 19 billion in insured losses in the first half of this year. However, that was for everything but thunderstorms. However, thunderstorms were 35 billion in insured losses. Now think about that. When you have a thunderstorm, what, in addition to torrential rain and wind blowing over trees, you get hail. When hail comes down on a city, what happens to cars?
They get damaged, severely
they get damaged. Windshields get broken. They get, the paint. I know in Denver they had, thousands and thousands of cars were smashed in by golf ball size hail. Windshields broken. So by far, thunderstorms outpace all other weather events. And again, with thunderstorms, you get it all. You get floods, you get hail damage, you get wind snapping trees onto houses and power lines. The total this year alone is likely to reach $50 billion just from thunderstorms. So it's not the tornadoes, it's not the hurricanes, it's not the blizzards, it's thunderstorms. And by the way, do you know that more people die each year from cold than heat? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
I think it's 3 to 1. So global warming, if there is such a thing as man-made global warming, it would actually wind up saving lives, because cold kills 3 times as many people each year as heat. All right. That's the big story you didn't hear on network news. So it came out last week that when he was vice president, Biden was using fake names to send emails. And this is a quote from the story. President Joe emails from his time as vice president are coming under renewed scrutiny over his apparent use of the pseudonym Robert L. Peters and other names. The House Committee on Oversight and Accountability chairman Republican James Comer has asked the National Archives and Records Administration in a letter on Thursday to provide unredacted emails from Biden's time as vice president that relate to Ukraine and the natural gas company Burisma. So my question is, and the reason the National Archives have them is because he sent them from his office computer, and anything that went out over a government computer is, part of the National Archives. So my question is, if you're the vice president of the United States, why are you sending emails under fake names on your office computer?
No, that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that unless you're trying to be devious?
Devious. So I think this is a huge story, and I think the bigger story is, why was Fox the only network that thought that was a newsworthy story? Because did you hear about it on CBS, NBC, or CBS?
I did not.
No. So the question is, I think it's a big story, and I think the bigger story is, why did all the networks except Fox didn't think you needed to hear about it? So
why is the president of the United States, or then vice president, trying to deceive us?
Right. And again, so that's why I call this show the news and perspective you won't hear on TV, because that's a piece of news you didn't hear on TV. Now let's get political. I am not anti-Trump. However, having said that, here's why I think you shouldn't vote for Trump in the primaries if you are a Republican and want our next president to be a Republican, and if you want to preserve a conservative majority on the Supreme Court. So first of all, let's talk about the Supreme Court. There's going to be at least 2, if not more, replacements on the Supreme Court. Both Justices Clarence Thomas and Alito are absolutely going to be gone in the next 4 years. I think Thomas is just waiting for the next president. Thomas has already said privately that the only reason he hasn't resigned is he didn't want a Democrat to appoint his replacement. So Thomas and Alito are going to be gone. And of course, things happen. People get cancer, they get heart attacks, they get in car accidents. But there's going to be at least 2 new justices on the Supreme Court. And if you want them to be appointed by a Republican president, it's imperative you don't vote for Trump in the primaries. And I'll tell you why. Right now, if you look at the polls, Trump is barely beating Biden in just a very few of the polls, and losing to Biden in most of the polls. And guess what? Biden is not going to be the nominee. In polls where they have Trump against any other opponent, like Gavin Newsom out of California, or Gretchen Whitmer out of Michigan, Trump loses by a landslide, because if you can barely beat Biden on a good day, and I say barely, like 1 point margin, and that's only in 2 or 3 out of 10 different polls. In 7 or 8 of the polls, Trump even loses to Biden. Well, if Trump can barely beat Biden, maybe, and is a guarantee to lose to somebody like Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer, who is most likely going to be the Democrat nominee. If Trump becomes Republican nominee, you are basically guaranteeing a Democrat in the White House in 2024. And a Democrat in the White House in 2024 means that you're going to have 2 more liberal justices appointed to the Supreme Court when Thomas and Alito are forced to retire because of age or infirmity. Any reaction to
who is your prediction for the Republican candidate?
This guy, he's coming on like a dark horse, but this Vivek Ramaswamy is really coming on. Personally, I think the Republicans' best choice would be Nikki Haley, because I think she would run away with the female vote. I think this country is ready for a woman president. And I think if you can get the majority of women in this country, you'll be our next president. And I think Tim Scott, the black senator out of South Carolina, I think would be an excellent choice too. So my preference would be Nikki Haley, number 2, Tim Scott, number 3, Vivek Ramaswamy. Do you have any?
And would it be unusual for the Democrats to not have the incumbent Biden? And who do you predict would be the candidate for the Democrats?
Well, again, I think it's either going to be Gavin Newsom or Gretchen out of governor of California, or Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan.
Do you find it unusual that the Democrats would not?
Well, it's unusual, but they know he's a loser. They know he's infirm. They know his dementia is getting worse day by day. They know that they know for certainty that he could not beat any other opponent besides Trump. I mean, that's a given. It's undisputed that Biden could not beat. By the way, women hate Trump. Women universally, even conservative women, hate Trump. And you can't be president in this country if you can't get at least 50% of the female vote. So they already know that if Trump is not the candidate, that Biden as the nominee is a guaranteed loser for them. And so I think Biden is going to announce that he's bowing out of the race either late this year or in January of next year. And that's the smart money's betting on that. So do you disagree, or you don't see that?
No, I didn't listen to much news over the weekend, but I did hear that Trump is declining to participate in any of the
debates tomorrow. Right.
Yeah. What is the word am I looking for? Debates that are
Right.
coming up in the next few weeks and months.
So, and by the way, even though Trump is ahead because he's got 42%, and the other 58% is split between the 4 or 5 other candidates. Another way to look at that is 58% of the Republican voters want somebody other than Trump. So yes, he's got a huge lead at 42. I think Ron DeSantis is in at like 21%. But the point is, if you add up all the other candidates who are not Trump, that's 58% versus. So as it narrows down to Trump versus only one other, I think that that other 58% who's currently not supporting Trump is going to coalesce around somebody who isn't Trump, and hopefully Trump won't be the nominee. And anybody who's listening to this, yes, I know you love Trump. I know he did great things. I'm not trying to diss the guy, but I'm just trying to tell you, Biden is not going to be the Democrat nominee, and Trump doesn't stand a snowball's chance of hell of beating anybody other than Biden. And Biden is most likely not going to be the Democratic nominee in 2024. So the search for perfection is the murder of the good. Don't murder the good by shooting for perfection. All right. How much time we got left?
You got about 10 minutes.
All right. Well, we're going to do something a little we've never done before. We're going to have 2 different taxpayer relief shots. And for those who have never heard them before, I'll let the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, Florida, explain to you what a taxpayer relief shot is. Here we go. Let me turn this up.
Somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully you'll save the taxpayers money.
And again, as we've talked before, if you add in the cost of the jury trial and $75,000 a year to send a thug to prison for 10 years, it's $1 million of taxpayer money to try somebody and send him to jail for 10 years. So you save the taxpayers $1 million. Whenever the thug winds up DRT, dead right there, you're saving the taxpayers $1 million. And here we got Sheriff Grady Judd. He's pretty vocal about these things too. Here we go.
But we have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
All right, and then we get one more from Sheriff Grady Judd. Here we go.
I would highly suggest that if a looter breaks into your home, comes into your home while you're there to steal stuff, that you take your gun and you shoot him. You shoot him so that he looks like grated cheese.
All right, so with that background, let's place 2. The first one again. Here's one where some armed masked men try to rob a father and his son, and the wife comes out of the house. The wife comes out of the house with her gun, and again, these are armed masked thugs. And here we go.
Deadly shooting happened overnight Saturday, and they believe a woman was defending her family when she opened fire, shot and killed the teen after a group of men tried to hold up her husband and son. Attempted armed robbery interrupted. Investigators believe a Jackson woman was defending her family when police say she shot and killed a teenager after a group of masked men tried to rob her husband and son.
Which I totally understand that, you kind of have no choice but to do that when it comes to family. But losing a life is still the same result.
According to police, the deadly shooting happened overnight Friday at a house on Garden Park Drive. They say a man and his son were outside when 3 men wearing masks approached them. They demanded money and keys to the car. Detectives say the man's wife came outside armed with a weapon. She fired several shots. One of the bullets hit a 17-year-old male who died on the scene.
We over here quite often, and usually this don't have any problems when we're over here.
Eddie James has been mowing lawns in the neighborhood for the past decade. James says he's surprised to hear about the shooting that foiled an alleged holdup.
Usually we over here pretty late, sometimes as well. Usually 7:30, 8 o'clock, right at dark, and still nothing of that sort has happened. So, like I said, it's just alarming.
Police say the 2 other suspects fired several shots and then ran away. Officers later captured a 16-year-old suspect in West Jackson. And police say the woman won't face charges. They will take the results of their investigation, turn it over to a Hinds County grand jury. For now, we're live in South Jackson. Ross Adams at 16.
And again, what do we hear? Well, 2 things. One, of course, his buddies ran away, leaving their wounded or dead body behind. And these were 16 and 17-year-old kids with guns.
Yeah.
How many
So
guns?
obviously they didn't obtain them legally.
No, they didn't, because if you're 16, you can't purchase or possess a handgun legally. All right. So let's go to the second one, where a woman, actually, yeah, here we go. This is where some thugs put a gun to the head of a woman's husband. Here we go.
Head, and then the man's wife gets a gun and fires back, killing the attacker. The shooting happened last night about 6:30 near South Oregon Springs Road in Salem, Indiana. Wait, news reporter Marissa Burke sorts it out for us.
Indiana State Police reports say the victim, Michael Chastain, showed up to the shooter's home on Oregon Springs Road in Salem. The investigation showed Chastain drove through the yard, got out the car, and attacked the homeowners. Police.
Oh, I'm going to pause this. The guy in this case, the thug, is the ex-boyfriend of the daughter of the family, and he was apparently angry, and he came driving his car across the lawn and attacked the father. So I'm going to back this up so you can get the full thing. Here we go.
Now to a harrowing scene at a home in Salem, Indiana, with an attack, a gun held to a homeowner's head, and then the man's wife gets a gun and fires back, killing the attacker. The shooting happened last night about 6:30 near South Oregon Springs Road in Salem, Indiana. Wait, news reporter Marissa Burke sorts it out for us.
Indiana State Police reports say the victim, Michael Chastain, showed up to the shooter's home on Oregon Springs Road in Salem. The investigation showed Chastain drove through the yard, got out the car, and attacked the homeowners. Police say he grabbed the homeowner, forced him to the ground, then pulled out a weapon and pointed it at his head. That's when the wife got involved. She grabbed her handgun and shot Chastain. Chastain was transported to St. Vincent Hospital in Salem, where he was pronounced dead. I reached out to friends of Chastain who tell me the shooter, Chastain, and the husband all knew each other. They say this situation is extremely odd and the details don't make sense. Right now, the case is being investigated by Indiana State Police and will eventually be turned over to the Washington County Attorney's Office. In Salem, Marissa Burke, Wave News.
So what do you think that one? Angry ex-boyfriend attacks girlfriend's father. What do you think of that?
Yeah. Well, good for the wife, though.
Good for the wife in both cases, and good shot.
Yeah.
So it pays. All right. Any more commentary before we sign off?
Nope. I was talking to some friends who live on the West Coast who were born and raised on the East Coast, and we were talking about Hurricane Hillary, which it's all relative, right? You know, we're used to dealing with hurricanes on the East Coast. They're not used to dealing with them on the West Coast. And as far as East Coast hurricanes go, this was nothing.
This was nothing.
But to the people of southwestern United States, Los Angeles area, boy, they're hurting. I don't believe that there was any deaths, but
I did hear that if there were any deaths related to the storm, that they were going to be classified as suicides. Did you hear that?
no.
Because it's Hillary. So any deaths from so if there are any related deaths, they're going to be recorded as suicides. And also there was some fear that the hurricane might erase 30,000 emails. So that's yet to be confirmed. Anyway,
No, they really need that water, but unfortunately, I don't think it's serving them the way that it probably should.
no, hey, into each life. And by the way, they've had similar events. They don't happen often, but they've had similar events 24 years ago and 50 years ago. So it's not climate change. These things happen about every 25 years. Anyway, we're running out of time. So I want to thank all of you listening to me ramble on for about 30 minutes, giving up your day. If you want to see some materials and story links you heard me talk about today, you can find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzeejoe.com, which is JERZEE, jerzeejoe.com. And if you want to email me with a question or suggestion, it's just joe@jerzeejoe.com. JER as in Robert, Z as in zebra, EE, jerzeejoe.com. With that, producer Susan, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm going to go outside and enjoy this lovely evening.
All right. Well, enjoy your day and get your lawn mowed. All right. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.